Wait a minute, are they in there? I'm sorry. I'll call this meeting to order. This is the Northfield Finance Committee meeting. It is being videoed, and also we have an audio recorder here. One of our members is absent tonight. The first on our agenda tonight is Richard Martin, the superintendent of the Franklin County Tech School, to give a presentation on their proposed budget, as I understand it.
Right.
Thank you.
It's the same as this.
Thank you very much.
I'm not sure what, yeah, that might be. This is the one, we just recently had a finance subcommittee meeting, so now that the budget is at least public for review, that's why
Yeah.
I am able to show it now.
Yeah, you haven't yet had the vote of the school committee, as I
Correct.
understand it.
That will be in March. We'll have our first reading next tomorrow night, and they'll have a month to deliberate, and then the final vote will be in March.
Yeah, okay. It's understandable that you have to make so many contacts around the different towns that you get started before then. Okay, it's always a good presentation, so I hope people watching us on TV are paying attention.
Yeah, I think the technician is going to turn this light off. I don't want to touch something that she has. She's just yeah, we rehearsed this for 4 hours. We finally got it down. I got here like 10 minutes ago.
And this is our town administrator, Andrea Lamas, is coming here.
How you doing?
Okay,
Okay, well, once again, thank you for having us, well, me, in Franklin County Technical School for an opportunity to get you updated what's been going on in the last year at Franklin County Technical School, how the tax dollars have been spent over the last year. And we will also be able to provide you with, once we show you that, where our enrollment is, what has been trending, and where it's going to be going. And it will also identify the number of Northfield students that are currently enrolled, how many are graduating, how many are applying. So we'll have some data for you to move forward with. We always like to give you a 1-year snapshot so you can budget for a year ahead of time. And we do a projection of what that looks like. So to start off with, just to get you caught up to speed, some of the things that we've been continuing to do is we've been updating our advanced placement courses. Last year, we talked a little bit about the potential of starting a new veterinary science program. Well, that has come to reality. I am happy to say that that is a vibrant program. It's for freshmen only this year. I'll explain a little bit more about that later. It's just about a 10-minute overview, so, and if we have that time. Our co-op is about 50% or so of our seniors are out on paid co-op. We continue to have construction of new homes, and I'll show you what that looks like. We revamped our welding program, our electrical shop. We are going to be getting an additional program in the fall, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. And we have refurbished our cafeteria. We have a summer school recovery program and our 8th grade summer academy, and we revamped our school store. So since we last met, these are some of the things that have gone on at Franklin County Technical School. We're real excited about some of them. In order to accommodate our large increase in special education population, we need to hire various types of positions. So we are adding, we have added in the last year a school adjustment counselor for special education, a math instructor, a vocational special education support paraprofessional, and a new special education paraprofessional. We also, because of increased demand in our electrical shop, we added an instructor. We added an additional veterinary science instructor, as that has really proved to be well worth it. We reallocated a carpentry teacher to fill the interest in carpentry, and we have to add a half-time history and half-time English. So that's us moving forward for next year and some of the things we did at the end of last year. This is that article that came up that Franklin County Tech was chosen as the only vocational program in the entire state to receive advanced placement honors. We are only one of 18 school districts in the state to receive such an honor from the National Advanced Placement Center. So we're really excited about that. And our veterinary clinic. So as I said last year, I didn't know I was going to get the grant, but we did get the grant. This is totally funded from the grant. This isn't coming out of taxpayers. So we're excited about, that is right here. We have the surgery room here, and you can see it's got a table and a sink and that kind of stuff. This is the exam room, and in the exam room, this is just a few weeks old. Our veterinarian is taking a blood sample with the students with the goat, and she's explaining what the process is.
How small animals? How large?
Small animals.
Yeah.
Correct. We will have some large animals as well. We didn't think we were going to advance quite this quickly, but the interest has been through the roof, and we have a lot of support from the community. So, speaking of large animals, on Fridays we bring in. This is Franklin County Tech. We have animals at Franklin County Tech. So, what we have is the kids will go around and get urine samples. We'll dissect them in our lab. They found a couple of animals that were sick, and they were able to provide and prescribe the right treatment. So that's exciting there. We also have a little fishy hatchery. There's 150 trout that are growing. This is a zoomed in iPhone photo of this morning. So it's a lot of education going on in that veterinary science center. We hire a full-time vet and a vet assistant. So that's to accommodate 17 or 18 students that are there for freshman year. Next year we're going to add sophomores. The year after that, juniors. The year after that, seniors. So we're going to add one grade level per year.
Backfill.
Yeah, we'll keep on backfilling it each year. So as each new freshman class comes in, they get a choice to be able to choose the veterinary science program. That's our chem lab, and that's amazing because I was looking at blood samples and urine analysis, and on that screen right here, if you press another button, it will actually label the little blood molecules and tell you what it is. So it's really exciting that the technology is really advanced. And all purchased and bought, we got a grooming area. So this is the 2 tables and the tub. And state of the art, we got state of the art ultrasound machines. We have 2 portable ultrasound machines to go out on the field as well. We have top of the line microscopes that all the students can see what's going on by putting up the screen. And now, with another grant that we're moving forward with, not coming out of our taxpayers' money, we're going to start a new program in the fall for certified medical assistant in an evening LPN program. It's really needed in the area because certified medical assistants, the number of jobs that are available is they can't fill them, even out here in Franklin County. So that's going to really put a nice opportunity for students to get right out of there and be able to go into college or the world of work. We are creating articulation agreements with colleges right now. For our veterinary program, we have articulation agreements with Tufts University, UMass, and Mount Wachusett Community College. So kids in our veterinary program will be receiving college credit for those types of universities before they even graduate. So that's exciting there. Our house project, the one we did in Irving, Mass, has been finished and bought. The one that they sold that one for $238,000. The foundation that we established has taken that profit, and they purchased another lot in Greenfield with that money, with all the supplies and the foundation. Then our kids came in and we're finishing up that house before the end of the year, and we just purchased another lot in Greenfield. So we're going to be wherever, this is going to be a continuation of their growth. So we're real excited about that. This is a $500,000 grant that came in the last year to revamp our entire welding program. That's just a life-size robotic arm, and we bought 10 other pieces of equipment as well. And we refurbished our fields in the last 2 years, and we're really happy about that. All our students, and the reason why we could afford to do it, because our students did all the work. They installed the lights. they are the ones who dug the trenches and laid the conduit and helped erect the lights as well. Freshman Exploratory program, just a quick snapshot. This is what they were doing in carpentry. They were learning how to frame a house before they were actually going to be able to get on the job site. And in our landscaping, they're doing some pretty cool things. I would like to have that in my house. They do a really nice job of some of the patios, lighting and brick and the masonry work. New cafeteria, again, didn't come out of taxpayer money. It came out of, we have a really good cafeteria director. And over the last 4 years, she was able to get a surplus of over $100,000, and we refurbished the entire cafeteria. So we have high tops, low tops. We have the booths in there. We had a whole bunch of things going on, and all the shops are represented on the walls all along the entire cap. We got charging stations and what have you. Our electrical shop has been our #1 interest shop over the last 7 years, so we didn't have capacity to house everybody. So we built another floor just in the months of June, July, and August. So now we can take the kids that want the program. So that's exciting for us. And I just wanted to show this. This was a female student in welding. She decided to go around the shop, and if you take a really close look, and collect nuts, bolts, wrenches, and chains on the exterior of the chain. And she put this guitar together. That's what it looks like from far away. But that picture doesn't do it justice. It's all made out of nuts and bolts. She's the most creative person I've ever met. That is an amazing piece of work. I just needed to show that off. I told her I'd do it at town meeting, so you can be able to say that I did. We have a Skills USA program for all of our vocational shop programs to compete locally and nationally. And we hold our state competitions here at Franklin County Tech. That's a really big deal for job resumes, colleges, and careers. And just community events. We continue to the Polar Express. We had 300 kids in the building. And for Halloween, we had 500 little kids in the building. We want the families to come in. We want to be able to open up our building day and night. And we do the same thing for the car show. So now let's talk numbers. All right. So here we go. Franklin County Tech's enrollment trend. Last year we had 485 in district. We are projecting 515 for next year. That's a likely scenario because right now we're going to be graduating 115 seniors in June. We currently have over 200 applications. So if we bring in 160 of those applications, we are going to increase that number by 40 to 45. Well, it won't be quite. We'll increase it by about 30 because some kids will be from out of district. Yeah. So it will be about that in-district number, which is what we're really talking about. Our total population next year could be closer to 550, including in and out of district. So we're trending in a direction we haven't seen in about 35 years. And solidifying some of our bases with some of the new programs we're doing. I think that really helps in updating our equipment and machinery and being able to give the kids a choice when they get out to have that opportunity to enhance their vocational trades, whether that's directly right out of high school or they need college and then go back to the trades. So here we are with special education, which is what I mentioned earlier. I have 4 positions. Here we are compared to the other regional school districts. Greenfield, Pioneer, Frontier, Maha, Mohawk, and Turners, and that's their percentage of special education students, grades 9 through 12. We're up here. And so we don't expect to drop there because we're going to take the kids who need us. And there are students who do really well that are in our honors and AP level, and there are students who are really intelligent with their hands-on skills, but it may not show it in the academic end. But they are smarter than I could ever be with some of the things that they're able to do with their hands. So it's exciting. Now let's talk about Northfield residents. Yeah. Here's the trend. I predicted last year when I came to this meeting that you would have about 30. I was off. because I was figuring some kids might enroll. So I was conservative in my estimate. We ended up with 27. So the benefit is it's a drop in assessment for the town of Northfield for this year. But again, our goal is to make sure that we're helping you plan. We're predicting 37 for next year. Now, that figure is not optimistic figure. We have 16 current applicants from Northfield. We're not done with the application process. We're going to graduate 6 students from Northfield. So that puts us down to 21. So 21 and 16 is 37. So we'll be in that ballpark. And we accept about 90% of the applicants, because you need to, people say, well, why don't you accept everybody? Well, we can only accept those that are qualified to go on to the 9th grade. We do get a lot of applicants that they apply, but they don't even get promoted into the 9th grade. So that does happen. So we can safely say we'll be right around that number. We might be a couple below. We might be a couple above. I think that's kind of where we're going. So if we have 40 here next year, that or go back to where we were in 2015, that wouldn't shock me. So you can kind of see the trend. And the local minimum contributions, again, we had 27 students. Your assessment per pupil has gone up, although our overall assessment per pupil across all 19 member towns dropped from 13,320 to 13,097. You were at 16.5 a year ago, you're at 17.1 now, so you went up. And that's a formula that's dictated by the state based on relative wealth and property taxes, and a formula they will not provide us with. And there's a really good reason for that. Because the top end towns like Leiden that are assessed at 18,800, is the same exact assessment that you have in Dover, Wellesley, Wayland, Weston. So no one's going to convince me that Leiden is as expensive as Wellesley. So, but they have a formula that will be able to dictate that. So there's the assessment. There's a local assessment. So you've gone down a little bit over the, not much. And the minimum contributions, and there's a number of students. So that gives you an idea. That's laid out in that booklet anyways, but I wanted to bring it out on the screen and take away all the other numbers that would confuse the public. So that's the numbers that really matter. As far as your capital assessment, about 4 years ago we went out to all member towns for new windows and doors, roof, paving, that kind of thing. And we're in year 3 of that. And so your assessment, our total assessment was 237 for all 19 towns. This year it's down to 201. We don't create that. That's based on the equalized valuation. It's a trend that comes out every 3 years, and they reassess what they're going to be doing. So it's been as low as 180 when it first started. It's high as 237. It's pretty safe to say it's going to be doing this for the next 12 years. And we'll be fluctuating between these numbers for probably about 12 years. So it's 10,600. It's down a few thousand from last year. It can bounce back up the following year, but it won't go through the roof. It's probably going to stay in that range. Our budget, and these are the last 2 screens, is the sources of funding. This is from taxation. We get about a 3% overall increase to our towns. We have that capital that I just got through telling you about. Chapter 78 ticked up from last year. Regional transportation ticked up at a higher percent from last year. Tuition from non-member towns went down for us. We didn't have as many out of the school district ones. I think that number's going to start trending back up because of the new programs in which we offer. We have a self-contained pre-employment program for students with significant disabilities that we continue to have some surplus in that we use towards the budget. We have those other revenues like Medicare that stay pretty constant throughout the years. It's about $10,000. Our E&D, $520,000, and I'm going to explain a little bit on the next slide what we're going to be allocating the E&D for. Next slide is the summary of how we're using the money. The district administration ticked up from $695 to $714, about probably about $20,000. We had a significant increase, as I identified here, with our instructional services due to all the increase in enrollment, increase in special education population. We have to be able to cover the needs. So that's where we spent that money. It went straight to salaries. Student services actually went down. And so that's going to fluctuate. That will be probably back up in a year once we identify our needs. Pupil transportation was pretty constant. Plant operating and maintenance. Retirement contributions stayed steady. Insurances, we had a 0% increase. So it didn't, because we're part of the Hampshire group, so it didn't go up. So that really helped the budget out. We have that Siemens project we did about 13 years ago now. We had new HVAC units and boilers that needed to be done, and then we're still paying off that. So that's on a similar scale to the other. It's going to go up and down and be able to fluctuate. Long-term debt, that's that project to offset the other one. And then capital stabilization. This is the first time in Russ's recollection, and doing this for 25 years and probably ever, that we're actually going to be utilizing E&D and putting it back into capital. The reason for that, we're going to put $300,000 out of that 520 on the previous screen. I'll show you that previous screen here. We're taking 300,000 of that, and we're going to put it into capital stabilization. And here's the reason for that. We're going to be building a state-of-the-art veterinary standalone clinic because the interest is going to be through the roof. So the ability to do that and not go out to the towns is our goal. And so we're trying to be very fiscally conservative and not go out to the towns for something that if we just be patient and plan over a number of years, we should be able to do it. All right? So that's going to save the taxpayers a lot of money down the road if we're budgeting correctly. So this is stage one. And so as Russ always likes to say, he's proven he can balance a budget. 12,580 here, and the previous screen 12,580. He did a good job, and I'll give him props for that. And now I'm at the questions.
Okay.
So is your clinic going to be self-sustaining? Is that what your goal is?
Yes, because with the number of extra students that are enrolling in the school, and when you take that per pupil cost and you magnify it out with the extra student, it's gonna be more than self-sustaining. It's gonna be able to, pay back for whatever we need to extend ourselves with. It's gonna pay for our teacher salaries. It's gonna take. Eventually, I'm gonna have 80 students in that program with 4 teachers, and it's gonna be vibrant. I'm gonna have animals there all the time. It's going to be a very vibrant educational opportunity. It's another big advantage too, is because students that want to work with animals and select that as an 8th grader going to 9th grade, if we don't offer that there, then the transportation cost down to Smith Folk is through the roof, along with their education. So what's a $45,000 to $50,000 tuition bill, which some of our towns now are receiving?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Would just be whatever our per pupil cost is. So in the end, it helps everybody when we advance our programs to fit what Franklin County is all about. That says Franklin County. I'm just kind of mad at myself I didn't start it earlier.
I think it's great the way you do, follow the needs of what there is here in Franklin County, what the need is for the training for the jobs that there are too. I think I remember last year when you talked about this, starting up this program, and so it's been very impressive.
Yeah, it's good that we were able to utilize the existing space inside the building.
Yeah.
Now we're a little bit more crowded because I had to move a science classroom and a lab out of there to fit that. Now everyone's kind of cramming. So I told them, be patient for 3 years, or we're gonna get them all out of there when we build a new facility.
Yeah.
So, and hopefully our students will be able to be a part of working on the interior of that to save even additional money. So there's ways to kind of get it done at an inexpensive level.
Now, you said you got a grant to get that program started.
Yeah.
How, 1 year for the grant?
Yeah, so the grant's getting it started and off the ground. Now that we got increased tuition, that keeps more revenue coming in, so now we don't need the grant. You
I
know,
see.
we don't need
Okay.
that every year. I was counting on that happening, and,
Yeah.
I just got lucky.
Very good. And then the next one you want to start is in the medical area.
So we currently have a health technology program, and the students walk away from there, in some cases with their EMT or their CNA, or a combination of the two of them. And students aren't selecting that shop at a rate that they are at some of the other shops.
Okay.
And it has to tie into job demand. And if students are going in and learning a different skill set, like a certified medical assistant, and they walk out of high school with that in their hand, now they're working in all the hospitals where all the demand is. And that's huge for us. And if we can begin to run an evening program to train those students that graduate, 15-week program to get certified as an LPN, now they're on the pathway where they can extend that education, they can work in hospitals. You know, that right now in Franklin County, at Bay State and
Oh, yeah.
Springfield and everywhere else, that's where the jobs are.
Sure.
So the blueprint, for the regional blueprint from Franklin County, is identifying that healthcare fields and certified medical assistants are the #1 job vacancy that can't be filled. So I read that stuff all the time, and I look at that and I say, what can we do?
Yeah.
You know, and so here's one of the steps that we're doing even again for next year. So it's pretty safe to say that our enrollment will continue to go up. We are graduating these last 2 small classes, and we're going to be bringing in larger classes in the near future. And we'll level off, because I already know what the enrollment trends are out there for the next 10 years. It's pretty steady. It's not going up, but it's not going down.
Just so you know, basically last year we had 24 new births in the town of Northfield. So basically,
Yeah.
we're seeing the population in Northfield kicking up. And as of this year, we've had already 4 new births. So there's
I'm
a
seeing it.
population explosion going on in Northfield.
Well, I'm
So-
seeing it in Mohawk region as well. So the elementary school populations are going up.
Yep.
So sustainability, I do very conservative projections. I'm saying we're not going down. We're at least flatlining, so we can predict accurately. But one of the things Franklin County Technical School has been pretty good at is drawing trades that seem to draw more of a male population.
Yeah.
So we maximize our ability to do that. That's not to say that our females don't go into auto tech, collision repair. They do it pretty good numbers, but the reasons why they come. But we haven't been focused on drawing the reasons why an 8th grade girl would want to come to Franklin County Tech. You know, and this is the first time in 11 years I've been there that we have 200 applicants, 100 are female. So it's real exciting that we're beginning to balance the playing field. Now, those applicants may go into carpentry, electrical, and that's exciting as well. So it's encouraging the direction we're heading.
How many total students do you have at this particular time?
Right now, we're at 509 if you include out-of-district populations. Our in-district numbers I showed on the board are 485.
Okay.
So not a lot of out-of-districts right now, but based on what's coming through the applicant pool, if that stays steady for 4 years as far as out-of-districts are concerned, and instead of 24 out-of-districts in 3 or 4 years will be 50 to 60.
Very good.
You mentioned in medical, we're quite aware of the shortage of EMTs.
Right.
And so if that, you're doing some training along that
Yes.
line for basic.
Yes,
So
yes, yes, we are. And that's a big part of the program as well.
Yes.
So we're just trying to expand those offerings and be able to provide students the type of training that fits the jobs that are in the area.
Yeah. That's very important, I think.
Yeah.
Excellent.
You had a high percentage of special needs
Yep.
students. The additional cost for those, are they spread across the whole district assessment, or say one town is sending 10, would they be making up a difference for 10 special needs?
So what happens is, if a child comes in and needs special education, there's usually a $3,000 add-on that we can get reimbursed for. So there is those resources that we can have, and that is spread out as well. So it's not embedded into a per pupil cost, right? But it does come to our out of district money that we have, and we, so if someone's coming from out of district and they're paying 18,000, if they're a special education student, they would have to pay 22,000, right? If they're in district, they just pay the per pupil cost. It's not an increase, so we have to find a way to make it work. And so our numbers are not surprising to be at 33% of our total population being special education. I have no strategic plan to lower that number. I think those kids need us.
Oh, I'm just,
Yeah.
it's nice when there's a larger population, you can spread that cost.
Yeah.
Some of the smaller towns get 4 or 5 special needs students, and
Correct.
it's really.
So we just do the per pupil and that's it. So it's not above and beyond that.
Do you, these new programs, the veterinary science and the CMA,
Yeah.
you expect a lot of recruitment, additional enrollments based on those?
Oh, absolutely. It's been the talk of all of the people who've come through, all the applicants, all the phone calls. We haven't even advertised about it. You haven't heard about it. We've been keeping it low profile just now. But once that does get out there, it's going to explode. Absolutely.
Do you have an open house or something to?
Yes,
show?
we have a rescheduled open house on Thursday night. And that will be rescheduled potentially if the snow continues its current track. So we got snowed out last week and we rescheduled for this week, and looked like we could have that snow out again. We do have an early open house that we did have back at the end of October, and that showed us right off the bat, wow, this is going to be a population explosion for us. There's a lot of vibrance and interest, and that's exciting.
Do you ever worry about maxing out? How many students can you actually service as far as?
642.
642?
Mm-hmm. We keep an eye on that capacity, and would we get to that level? I'm not sure. The timing, if that ever did happen, we would have the vet clinic of 80 students already away from that facility. So I'm not sure we would ever hit maximum capacity. I think that will probably limit off right around after the next 2 years. I don't expect the numbers going up at all. I expect us to pretty flatline. If anything, we would come down.
Okay, up or down, slight.
Yeah, it would be, I think, a slight trend downward. Then it would be the other way up.
I'm curious, this is a small animal one. It's like a clinic. They bring them in. You're not having to build a facility to house these animals overnight or anything.
Correct. They'll bring the animals in. They'll do a diagnostic assessment. They'll treat if they can.
Yeah.
But most of the time, we'll just refer to their local vet. It's just a training for the students.
Yes, sure.
The key thing with our veterinary program advisory board is that we're not going to be a clinic to challenge or go against any existing
No
clinic.
competition then.
Right, so what we're planning to do is make sure we're utilizing the animal shelter. We may even help construct an animal shelter right next to our facility. So we want to make sure that our veterinarians see us as a partner to be friendly to help their business, not to take away from it.
Yeah.
But you do charge, though. Do you charge for, if somebody brings an animal in, or is there a slight fee of some kind?
There's the only fee that you would have is if you use something.
Okay.
But as far as a labor fee, absolutely not. So it's not.
It would be for medicines and that sort of thing. So,
Correct. It would be what we would use.
Yes.
And that wouldn't be for profit. I mean, we want to make sure that anything we use would be in for the direct need of the animal at that particular moment. If it can wait, we call their vet. We make sure their vet takes care of it. You know, but at least the diagnostic assessment that the students are learning, they learn how to take a urinalysis. They can see what's wrong with the blood sample. They can learn from that experience. So that's huge for us. That's just in ninth grade. They're starting all that already. I don't know anything about that, but it's exciting to go in there and just see what they're doing already. I'm like, wow, I'm amazed.
Any other? So, anything?
No.
Do you,
Very impressed.
do you think you evolve into a co-op program with local vets where,
Oh yes, yes. One of our discussions that we'll have when our students reach a certain credential, when they start to have the right training behind them, then we'll send them out to the veterinary offices and they'll work a co-op job. They'll work job shadows. I have 3 veterinarians on my board, and they're all excited about it. So yes, they'll be doing a lot of that.
I can't help but be doing some comparisons in my mind, and I'm sure the rest of us are too, with the other district that we belong to. And a couple of things that you've I noticed here. You have an SRO.
Yes.
Our other school does not choose to have one. Would you care to comment on the benefits of that?
Sure. When I was a building principal there for 6 years, I thought it was important that we provide a layer of confidence.
SRO is School Resource Officer.
And that level of confidence for not only our students, but our community was really important to me. So I started to work with the local police department and we established an MOU. The benefits of that is, as long as, there's a whole curriculum that a lot of schools that don't use an SRO don't know about. We had safety tests. They bring in these non-profit, cars, and the kids get in their vehicles. They're going 60 miles an hour down our parking lot. They don't slam on the brake. The professional drivers doing all the driving, showing them, the distance between speed, stop. I got in. I was scared. Right? They thought I was crazy getting in there. I thought it's like amazing. These professional drivers, this is what they do for a living. So we have those type of programs. We have substance abuse type of programs, what would happen behind the wheel, all these preventative programs that are done through our school resource officer. So it's not just someone who's standing at the door with a wand, right? It's someone who actually has a curriculum and a purpose to be able to help our students with all kinds of safety, and not to mention being safe when we do have concerns and issues. So it's important if it's done correctly.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So if we're just going to station someone in a uniform at the front of the door, then that's not the way to go. But we generally have them in plain clothes, very engaging, involved with the students, under the authority of the administration.
Yes.
So we're the ones who have that authority, and we bring the school resource officer in when we think it's appropriate. That school resource officer used to be a community officer, so he knows everyone in the community. He helps keep us up to speed, what's going on with some of the students that may be involved in the criminal justice system for whatever the reason, or their families, and it really helps us have a better understanding of the whole child. So I really am a strong advocate of having a school resource officer. Not to mention, would you want to be on the other end of the spectrum? God forbid if something ever happened in your school and you had the choice to have that and you did not do it. I don't think a year's worth of salary is going to compete with that. My MOU was to work with the local police department, and we pay for the lowest paid officer. So we have someone that gets paid probably $75,000, $80,000 a year, but we pay for the lowest paid officer, even though that officer is worth that money in our building.
I see.
Any new recruit that comes on, we just take on that salary. So we're paying high 30s, low 40s.
Oh, okay,
Big difference,
yeah,
right? So there's ways to go about it. It's worth investing in. Not to mention, every 3 or 4 years, they come out with a federal COPS grant, which we're applying for. I think that next opens up next year, so that will offset our budget as well. So there's a lot of ways to do it, but the goal is you don't want to be on the wrong side of a major event.
The school resource officer is an employee of the police department and
Yep.
but works at the school.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
another, thank you, we appreciate your comments. Another position that you referred to, and it's just been in the news this past week as to what's happened here. Adjustment counselor
Yes.
versus guidance counselor.
Correct.
It's not the same.
Totally different.
Yes,
And you're speaking with a certified guidance counselor and a certified school adjustment counselor in my past life. So
Okay.
I am
All
well
right.
aware of the position. I actually did the position when I was at Tri-County Vocational School in Franklin many years ago.
Yeah.
It is a lot different. It's a clinical position, which somebody is, they do a lot of behavioral intervention. They help train staff. They are specialists with data collection. They work with the students around de-escalation skills. It's different from a guidance counselor that's really geared to career and college types of pathways.
Yeah.
Not that, and our guidance counselors have great skills with the counseling as well, but a school adjustment counselor, he's never in his office. He is out and about engaging the kids where they are at 24/7. He knows every high-profile student in the building. They all gravitate towards him.
or her.
Or her. We happen to have a male in that particular position.
Yeah.
But they're very clinically based. They're the ones who have very knowledgeable clinical skills to diagnose, to be able to assess, make referrals to hospitals if need be, get some of the clinical teams on board. They're more clinical in nature when it comes to mental health and the DSM-4 diagnosis. They're very schooled in the mental health. It's having a licensed social worker is what they are. So the certification programs that are now for school adjustment counselors are identical to licensed social workers. So they have all that clinical experience and skill, which is a lot different than a guidance counselor, but people like to lump them in the same category,
Yeah.
and they serve as totally different jobs.
Okay. Apparently, the administration at the other school chose to eliminate that position and say that the guidance counselors could handle it. And apparently, at last week's school committee meeting, parents and staff, faculty, I believe, objected and got it reinstated. So it's interesting to hear you've got a good handle on it.
Well, I think one of the
having-
aspects, students cope a lot differently with adverse situations. So if they resort to things like cutting or self-harm and things like that, that's not something a typical guidance counselor gets trained for or experiences. That's a school adjustment counselor usually comes from a mental health agency. They're dealing with that every day. It's a whole different
Yeah.
skill set.
Yeah. Good to hear the details of it. Yeah.
No, again, excellent presentation. It's, you know,
Yes.
Thank you.
Very professional. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
We look forward to this every day. You know?
Well, thank you.
You can't help but be making comparisons in our minds. Thank you. Tell Russ we missed him again this year. Last year, I think he
No, it was 2 years ago. He came
was
last
it.
year.
Oh, okay.
And he, I didn't give him a good grade, so he didn't come back this year. No, he does a wonderful job, and we work real well together.
That's good. Will you be able to? Someone be able to come to our town meeting in case there
Yes.
are questions?
It will either be Russ or I.
Okay, May 4th
Yep.
this year.
Yep.
Okay.
We
Thank you
attend
very
every
much.
year, and we will be there again. Give me 2 minutes, I'll be out of your way.
oh, take your time.
Okay, that's fine. And the town meeting is, as usual, over at
As usual, yeah.
auditorium. Yep. Thank you.
Very well attended out of a lot of the towns. You probably have percentage-wise best attendance at your town meetings.
Really?
Good to hear.
You're talking to someone that's been to all 19 of them. So you have excellent attendance from your town, and it sounds like that will
good.
continue.
Good, we appreciate hearing that, because sometimes we wonder, we sit there and look, and is anybody coming, you know?
Well, percentage-wise, it's really well attended.
Okay, thank you.
But remember, next year the assessment may not be as good news.
Yes,
Saw that.
I just wanted,
That's okay.
I said that last night to Irving when I walked out the door. I said, just remember, it's all well and good now, but.
Again, but there's a reason for that, and we can understand that.
yes. Yes, it's
Thank you.
justifiable,
Yeah.
that's the part that helps.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Peter.
thank
Yeah.
you. Bob, the Board of Health?
You guys have the budget, yes? Of course.
Okay, you know the usual, we go through and look for any changes from the prior year. Is this the final figure from the solid waste district? They sent out a proposed figure, and then is this, I didn't look back and compare it myself. Is this what was voted recently?
Yes, I grabbed last year's budget. I got this year's budget here, not my new budget. Do you have another copy of it?
Well, what I've got, I don't know if we've got the latest or what.
Oh, you have the latest. I got a clipboard, but I have last year's budget. I don't know, I didn't bring the current one.
You mean,
I can
okay,
make a copy quickly.
all right, thank you.
What do you need?
I can make a copy of my budget. I have last year's budget on a, that I brought in on a clipboard.
Is this the budget?
No,
Is that-
that's last year's.
The whole thing?
Is this what you have? This is my copy.
Oh,
Is this this year's? It's either just different.
yeah.
That is? Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's the one you
I'll
sent.
make you a copy.
First ones look the same anyway, so.
I can address some of the changes that are on it before
Yeah.
I get the copy of it. The,
It's a solid waste district, you know, it's an assessment. There's not much we can do about it anyway.
no, they went up quite a bit, but that's their assessment at this point.
Yeah, okay. Then, down on, under the transfer station,
Thank you.
there's a $1,700 increase. And that's the
This doesn't look
tipping
like-
fees.
They actually made a big increase, much larger than that. But what's happening with at the transfer station is we used to make money off recyclables, off the entire tonnage. Right now through July 1st, we're making $6 or $8 a ton. We used to make as much as 40 or 50 a ton. That is changing with the new contract, and we're going to be paying $95, $94.50. It'll actually work out to be less than that. At this point, it's probably 70, 68, 70, because there's market share that goes along with that, so it offsets whatever Waste Management is getting for share. They've also told us if we keep glass out of the recycling stream, we can take $5 off the 95. There have to be some very big changes now that we're going to make at the transfer station regarding recycling.
Is it still going to be worthwhile to be separating out this material?
We have to. It's state law. You can't burn or bury. It doesn't say what you have to do in terms of recycling, but you can't burn or bury or send to another state those items to be burned or buried. You need to recycle them, which doesn't, it's not stipulated how. With glass, the intent is to take it out and crush it, grind it and crush it, and then we can use that. I've talked to Tom Walker, he can use that in place of sand in some cases, because that's what you have is sand when you crush it. That is about half of the containers, that's about half the weight. So the other thing that we send, the figures I used to use, they're a little lower this year, but we're 100 tons of containers, 150 tons of paper and cardboard. Cardboard still has value, paper, no value. So I want to look at having people deposit paper and we send that to be composted because it's not being recycled, it's not being turned into other paper and this kind of thing. And if that changes, when it changes, we can get back to that. But these changes are, the projection was it's going to cost the town close to $20,000 if we just do things the same as we've been doing. If we send all the material to West Springfield, to the MRF, it'll cost us a lot more because we're paying a lot of money per ton. That's one factor. The other factor that hasn't been established yet, in 2012, the state, Boston, said to haulers, waste haulers, you have to pay scale. Their scale was Boston construction haulers. And it was a big problem then. Jan thought that was Kulik and various people. And Jan and the district are trying to find it now. The state just came out with that. So the hauling would go, they would double it. They said instead of paying $24, that's what the drivers are making. The state wants them to be paid 55 or so, almost $55, 54 something. So that's even untold yet. If that goes in, it'll increase the hauling cost by an appreciable amount, by 30 or 40% anyway.
Well, now you say it's Boston rates. Now, many years ago when prevailing wage started, that's on paying for construction costs and stuff like that for labor. It used to be Boston, and then, now this goes back years, of course, and then they finally got it changed to at least a Springfield prevailing wage, which was...
That was 2012, that happened. It was two things. It may not be Boston prevailing wage, but it's the rate for construction. So some attorneys for the legislature said, look, you have to pay this much. They are not reading the law as people out here does, as the district does, as the attorney the district hired is reading it. And trash haulers and construction, very different rates, and that was the way it's always been. So they're telling the haulers out here, which is Waste Management, it's all the haulers, you have to pay this scale, which turns out to be a very high amount.
Yeah.
That would it would just bankrupt the system.
Yeah.
And I don't know when that'll be established. It's got to be determined soon, and the district is going to potentially have to go to court and fight DEP on this. I believe the order came from or Department of Transportation, whoever came up with the order.
Yeah.
And it's through DEP too. So it's just there's a constant battle.
Now, is it on this separation of things? You say we put glass and cans together over there at the transfer station, and you spoke about glass. Are we going to be having to separate those two over there at the transfer station?
What you guys have is not my budget. Andrea, you there?
Yeah.
This is not, I don't believe, what I turned in.
Well, this is what I got.
Oh, this page was not there.
That was email.
Last page isn't. It's not on here.
What are you looking for?
This material.
They don't have that, or you do? You don't have.
They don't have that.
You don't have page 3?
No. Do you have
What
page?
page?
Page three, maybe it didn't come through.
Page
Yes, I do.
three. There we go.
He didn't get a copy of it.
All right, I can get it.
Do you need,
Yeah,
you
we
need
have
this?
page three.
Yes.
Okay, I'll make you a copy.
I have increased the budget by quite an amount. I increased it by about 17 for hauling, for tipping rather. This is, I don't know where you want to put it. We've never paid to have them take recyclables from us.
It's only 1,700.
Yeah,
That seems low.
it's very low. I had actually put Jack, I think, and it's on the page 3.
That's where it's.
The total is 190, so I don't know. I thought I was raising it 17,000 in that space.
Maybe I have the wrong one.
Well,
I don't.
Are you talking tipping fees are not 1,700 but 17,000?
1,700, yeah.
Not 17,000.
now I have to check the math all over. The total comes out to 190. Page 23. No, I apologize. I don't know what happened.
I know, I don't know. That's carrying the transfer station number here, which doesn't account for recyclables.
Right.
Yeah, I think probably.
Well, this year, the total budgetary request was 176,000. This year, I had it down here as, what, 190?
Yeah, well, you've got some things in here.
I don't know how to calculate this, because my intention, next July, is to not be sending them everything we're sending them now. If we pull glass, that's about 40 or 50 tons that we're not sending them. And that's a huge savings, because this goes out, and there's been all kinds of talk. Amy Dunn was putting things out. Oh, it's cheaper to get rid of recycling still than trash. No, it's not. Because we send trash out at, let's say, 15 tons to West Springfield. $200, 210, 215, 16. And that varies. If we send the recyclables out, they go out at under 2 tons. That 35-yard box with everything thrown in, we're shipping air. So we're paying $200 odd to ship less than 2 tons. So when you look at 100 tons times, dividing it, it's huge money. If we take out glass and we take out paper, that's an enormous savings. It's still going to cost us money. I almost don't know how to predicate. The other thing is I don't know how to figure in trucking if they come up with that still. That would have to be an emergency thing.
Well, I would just, there are a couple of things we can talk about here, but I wondered if you wanted to go back over your figures and then come in another time.
So I'll do that.
But a couple of things that you've requested here that we can talk about is on page 3. You've got a comment about the Board of Health desires a line item for legal consultation and
Yes.
expenses of $4,000. We can't do that. We have a legal account, one appropriation for it, and we have rules that have been established for years on the use of that legal account, and we don't allow different departments to just have total access to town council. We go, selectmen delegate that through the town administrator, and often it's the person that needs to make the call that can do it, but in her presence. And it needs to be concise. We're paying by the hour for that.
I understand that.
Okay, all right, and the other, let's see, on the other page, there's something. Oh, you're talking about a well over at the transfer station, drilling a well.
I encumbered the funds last year when Phil came on board. I filled out the paperwork and I attempted to encumber the funds. We turned back about 25 to 30,000 last year from our budget. I encumbered it. I had the well guy out. We were going to put in a well. Phil finally sent us the paperwork back, too late to do anything about it. And it didn't happen as it would have happened with Deb. And he put one line there and said, you don't have the money, where I argue with that. So I either have to ask for the money or I need to go to town meeting. And it was going to be a special town meeting. Andrea said, I don't know if that's going to occur. And I want to ask for that money for a well from free cash. That's...
Well, wait a minute now, you don't determine where the money comes from. We'll take care of it. We do that if we're recommending something. But tell me a little more about needing this. There's no water supply over there.
There's no water. We need a well for fire suppression for varieties of things. And the estimate was 15,000. That was a very high estimate. It was going to come in for less than that. He thought significantly less, but we put that down to be careful to cover it. So
there's a vein of water over there that you can tap into.
He feels that we're in an area where we don't have to go terribly deep, and that it would be not a big deal. We had it from the highway department. That line was broken. It never worked very well. It was a little pipe wherever it had been there for years. So the thought of putting this in for fire suppression, if we go ahead with a building, and that's one of the other things I'm talking about, we would want water there. OSHA for a variety of reasons. If we put in a building, I want to put in a miniature little bathroom, because that's what employees don't like about being there. They won't be there longer than 3 hours. So they don't have to use the outdoor thing, the
porta potties.
Porta potty.
Yeah.
So that, I will do the figures, I'll get them better, but I don't know what to do about the trucking. I was hoping that some of that could be ironed out before I had to do this, but it doesn't look like it's going to be. And in terms of an increase, we're going to have increased costs. I just don't know how to predict them because I don't know how much I can take out. We can take out paper, we can take out, but we're gonna have to still send, I think, cardboard. And with the glass out, if that was 100 tons of containers, I think it'd be still 50 tons. I don't think it's actually 50% of the weight.
So as far as the increase of the cost, that are you thinking about increasing some of the fees at this time?
We have to talk about this. We can all talk about this. There's a thread, and I don't get involved with it, but it was on the next door. So I did get involved because someone said, is there a Board of Health person out there? People want to talk about this, recycling and a variety of things. There are any myriad possibilities. You could close the dump. You don't have to have a transfer station. I think that would be riotous. I don't think that would be a good thing to do. Gill, people say, well, Gill and towns that have pickup. It would be a lot of money for people on their own to do that. Shutesbury used to have trash picked up at the home. A few years ago, they had 2 override votes on over 3 years, And they both failed, so they said, you're on your own, we don't do this anymore. Guild does it, but they just hire a company to come in, and they give them a certain amount. What you get from the transfer station over that is remarkable. And I'd show that argument, but that would take a long time. So, I mean, the town almost has to make some decisions here.
So Bob, as far as doing that, because I am kind of the person they talk to when they come in and buy their stickers. And I don't think they're adverse to paying more if that's the case as far as doing it, because they look around at some of the other towns that are paying, $50, $100 per, for a sticker, for your transfer station sticker. And I think if you approach it in such a way as far as doing it, it's a user fee as far as doing that. They are almost expecting that at this point in time, as long as it's not, if it's reasonable or it's justifiable as far as doing it. I think, you have the opportunity here to, because everybody is talking about this, you're seeing it on next door. People are concerned, they want to know what it's going to be. Everyone I've talked to coming in to get a sticker has kind of got the feeling, yeah, it's going to go up. Either that's going to go up or the bags are going to go up as far as doing that. So they're anticipating it. They're just hoping it's not so much. But I've also told them that you were looking into trying to minimize that. So I think what you want to do is, you're looking at other alternatives, but we have things in place right now that you can probably work on at this point. Because, like I said, people are almost expecting some type of an increase.
What I've seen lately on Nextdoor is they're talking about we're adding to the plastic going into landfills by the town bags. And going to go to stickers instead of the town bags, but that gets complicated.
Well, if you go to a sticker instead of a town bag, you're not carrying your waste there in your arms and throwing it in and giving a sticker. You're using a black bag anyway.
Yeah.
The plastic, the bags, I think are here to stay. People also talked about what about if you bring your own trash container, a 33-gallon thing, and you have a coupon, a sticker, whatever you give to the transfer station.
Yeah.
Most cars you can't put a 33-gallon thing in. People are driving Hondas. So some of the people that have the farm plastic, farm bags, feed bags, say, well, we'd like to use those.
Yeah. Yeah.
We could design a couple of systems and those people, but in terms of the pellet bags, that was the other thing, let's put it in pellet bags. The pellet bags are recyclable, eminently recyclable. The program in a way, because of problems at the district, we could reinstitute that. And that's number 4 plastic, easily recycled, but we have to have a way to collect it and or bail it or do whatever. So we're at a crossroads with this transfer station. And I've been talking about this for years, as you're aware, about putting up a building. It's really thrust on us now because of this. It's never been like this. It was hard before to say, well, we'll give up this certain amount of money that we were getting from the market. But now, with the costs the way they are, that's $94.50 now for dual stream. If we were single stream, if everything went in together, it would be $145. Places in Brattleboro or Southern Vermont are paying a lot more than we'll be paying. Some of that is due to the district and a lot of the fighting they've done. The trash, I looked at this, it's about, my figures were $96 a ton to get rid of trash, solid waste, the new figures. It'll be over 200, 210, 220 to get rid of a ton of recyclables. It's hugely expensive. And the idea is, what is being recycled? If there's a market for it and it's being recycled, that's plastic 1, 2, 5, and potentially 4 of the pellet bags and things, the films. Those are recyclable. The rest of it's nonsense, and there's not that much in there anyway. So the way to cut it is glass and paper, and still redeem the cardboard. Cardboard, a year ago, the market was paying about over $100 a ton for cardboard, OCC. Now it's down around the 30s, 30, 32. But if you take the 30 and you put it on top of the 95, it's serious money. A bale of number 5, which is not a valuable plastic, is 22, 25 cents a pound. You're talking $400, $500, $600 a ton for the plastics. So to bale the material and hang on to it, to tarp it outside, do whatever, is much more reasonable than sending a product with value to Waste Management at tremendous cost and not recovering anything from it. I don't think DEP represented us well with the contract with Waste Management. And they also added 2.5% a year. That was never in the contract before. So that's another real increase. The state's used to hearing 2.5%, right? But there's just a lot of reasons I'd like to handle it ourselves and get off the MRF. These are outside things. The MRF demands of the towns in Western Mass, you have to send us 17,000 tons of recyclables a year. If we don't get that, we're gone. We're out of here. So there's even the potential that the MRF might not be taking it, or it might become more exorbitant. They'd be allowed to have more money in costs. And it's, they're not making what they used to make, but they're. Let me come back, then I'll do the figures.
Okay.
How much revenue a year do the bags generate?
Probably around 40,000.
Does that go to the general fund?
Yeah, it all goes to the general fund. I think that the transfer station costs the general fund $30,000 or $40,000 a year with the budget and what we turn back, and the sticker cost $20 for a sticker and the bag. So we used to also get this return, which is around call it $20 or $30 a ton. That's the market share from Waste Management. They're going to apply that. That used to come back to the town. Now they're going to apply it to their cost. So people don't see that it's 95 as much. It'll seem better, even though it is. Because we're not getting that money back. So if you take it at 94, but now you're only paying 70, we're only paying 70 because you're not giving that money back to us. You're applying it to your high rate. So it's a conundrum.
Well,
What do you guys think?
did you want further question on that?
Well, 40,000 a year, it's only covering a quarter of the operation of the transfer station. So that's a definitely selling point to.
Well, the other thing too, as
Look
far
at
as
the
doing that,
funds.
is the stickers. That's going back in the general fund, correct?
Right.
As far as doing that, if you up the stickers and use that for, say, construction or something, and you upped it, say, to $50 a thing, right now you have $25,000. Because I had taken in 507 stickers at this point.
You weren't a
So-
fan of me raising them to 20. And a lot
Well,
of people,
I have to take it. Well, again, I'm approaching it, talking to these people, and saying, things need to happen here as far as doing that. And I would say that 95% of them are saying, "Yeah, we understand it's going to happen." And they look at turnstiles, they look at the others.
is it more logical to
$90.
raise the sticker fee or to raise the bag fee?
That's your decision.
I approached both of those as far as doing that,
So-
and they know that something's coming.
The thing about pay as you throw, initially it was put into force so that people would take their recyclables out, the things that are going to cost us so huge, and not throw them in as
And
trash.
people are understanding that because basically even with the increase in price as far as that, and even with the fact that they're saying we're not getting as much as recyclables, they're still saying we want to still recycle. So, that's an argument. I think that the community here basically understands that. But if you were using your sticker funds to fund your building for the last few years as far as doing it, and you had a reasonable increase of, say, $50, and we've been getting about 800, okay? I've 850 per year, so I'm down a little bit at the moment, but that's a good chunk of money to help pay for your building. And again, I appreciate.
Well, this isn't for the building. This is just.
Well, no. I'm just saying that if you want to get the cost of that building and not have to pay for it, that the users pay for it. That's one way of doing it.
Well, how about if you come back in 2 weeks?
I'll talk to Jan. Jan, the district is recommending everyone go up on those fees on
Yeah.
bags, on
Yeah,
sticker. We'll look
but
at that.
then you give us some firm figures here on your budget.
Bob, do you want to meet, I was at the meeting too. Do you want to meet and go over stuff too? Because I have all the same paperwork. Maybe we can come to I can just provide some help with the numbers.
Sure. If it was, I'm saying if it cost us 30 or 40 prior to this, I have to see what it's gonna cost us now to operate the place. Because after all the costs, bags and stickers, when we turn back that money, I mean.
Okay, you work with him on the figures
Yeah.
then?
Yeah, I understand what he's talking about. I went to the meeting, I've seen all the numbers, and she gave out some average tonnage, and we could do some computation to see what we might expect as the increase to the budget.
Okay,
And, you know, he can decide how much of that he thinks we should pass on, and then you could make a recommendation. And, I mean, the difficulty with just doing the bag fees is that they go to the general fund, or the stickers go to the general
Yeah.
fund, so you're still
Yeah.
raising and appropriating, or however you fund it, the costs of the transfer station. We get revenue from that, but they're not a one-to-one offset at the time. So if you wanted to do some kind of offsetting, you're gonna have to do some other kind of.
But it's not an
Yeah.
enterprise fund, and we're, if money is coming out of the general fund and paying for the budget, and it's going back in the general fund, it's a write-off in my,
Well, it is, but you're still raising and appropriating it. So the other ways to do it is that, like, people do stabilization accounts, or people do revolving accounts
Yeah.
for certain things. Those are ways that you actually keep it off the tax rate. There's only so many ways to do that. But it doesn't mean you're gonna do that here. I'm just saying, if you're gonna do sticker fees, for example, or bag fees, they're gonna go to the general fund unless you specifically create a different path, a different mechanism. And that just means it comes out of the general fund. So it's how you're gonna appropriate the money and how you're gonna affect savings versus tax rate. But it's the same money.
yeah, yeah.
So it's how do you wanna fund this? And that's a decision you guys have to be part of, once you have the numbers.
So how about 7 o'clock on the 25th?
under which,
25th, 2 weeks from
there's
tonight.
something else on the 25th, what's the 25th?
Here's the final number for the Franklin County Solid Waste Management District, which is slightly different than the one he has. I
Oh.
put his number in it, but I'll correct it. That's the actual assessment number.
Quick question,
Yes.
Andrea, we have signed a contract for a period of time for the,
They have just re-signed, yes, we have just re-signed that contract.
and what's the length of the contract?
5 years.
10 years, 5 years.
5 years.
renewable,
5 years?
Yep,
But it's with a renewable.
Okay. Now, the other thing is the provisions of the contract require us to send all our recyclables to them.
Yes.
So the question is, if we try to separate it and sell it somewhere else, do we violate that contract?
There's been talk about something, they don't necessarily want your glass mixed in with the plastic, it actually destroys their machines. It actually doesn't benefit them. They do want the other materials, so there are people who are talking about removing glass. So that's the big number one talk I've heard, that I suspect they won't be too upset with if you remove. But if you start peeling off things, you could end up in trouble with.
Now,
And
the
you could
other
also-
thing too, the question would be, with the separation, would be the consumer or the resident who would do it, or we have a staff person?
You'd have to
At the
simply
transfer
collect it,
station.
or you'd have to collect it separate. If you ask homeowners to separate it, you're still
Yeah.
gonna have separate containers to collect all that. It can become quite a monumental task.
Yeah.
And then you do run the risk, if people start taking all of this out, we do fall below that district-wide tonnage requirement that they're imposing, which is the 17,000. So we have to be careful, because.
except that's gonna be more in terms of cities, Greenfield, Holyoke, those kinds of places. Our numbers are pretty small, so
Right. But it depends if more and more districts are different. I don't think that's gonna be an initial problem. Once they reach the initial 17 threshold, the contract's good, whether or not you peel out a few things. But if you start peeling out 5, 6 things, it's a management issue yourself. You gotta create contracts with other vendors who are gonna come and take this, you gotta have a place to store it, you gotta have, so you have to think of the totality of the plan before you just start doing that.
So the 11th to the 25th, 2 weeks?
7 PM,
Yeah, it's okay.
sure.
Okay.
All right,
Perfect.
very good. Thank
Okay,
you.
We'll
Yep.
see you then.
See ya.
Good evening.
Sorry to keep you waiting.
That's fine. That is fine.
Okay, we've got the fire chief here, Skip Danielle, who's gonna talk to us about his budget. And, you know, we go through and we look for changes.
Yes.
So,
Okay, you
they
want-
never seem to, well, sometimes figures go down, but, all right. What we've done here is other purchase services up $1,000. What do you put into that?
Yeah, that's basically repairs, repairs on the apparatus. We,
Okay.
if you look at last year, we spent $7,620, even though we appropriated $6,000. So
Yeah.
I felt as though we should
Get up to
should
what
bump
you
that up.
spent.
That's the reason for that. And obviously the salaries, that, the 3% you see on the side is arbitrary, that, I mean, you start at the top of the list here. That's whatever the board and the finance committee decides to give
Yeah.
their salary people, but I always put a number in there.
Oh, sure, I
increase.
know. I look at it and I say, yeah, okay.
So other
I
than
think
that.
we understand.
Yeah. Other than that, other purchase services, everything else in the operating budget basically is level funded. And I'm looking forward to our new accounting system where we're gonna narrow up some of these categories
Yes.
and make them a little bit easier and whatnot, so.
Eliminate some that aren't
Yes.
used anymore.
Well, they aren't used, they can be combined, you know, really.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
You're going up on
Fire
hose.
department hose and equipment, we haven't increased that budget for I think it's either 7 or 8 years.
Yeah,
What we're looking to do is we're looking to, I try to squeak out at least a set of turnout gear every year. We have 27 firefighters and we got most of the gear on grant. And some of that is getting to a point where it needs to be replaced. So instead of waiting and getting it all again, I'd like to bump that amount up by $3,000 to get an additional set of gear. So we're going from 9,000 to 12,000. That's specifically for turnout.
Is that what it is, a set of gear,
No, it's actually 5.
5 per? Oh,
5,000 per
For one.
firefighter, for one.
okay.
Yeah.
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 And
So,
why aren't you asking for the 5?
because I think, in all honesty, the way we try to do this, hose and equipment, I've been able to take, in the last couple of years, I've been able to take 1 or 2 sets out, some of it out of there.
Okay.
So I think that if I can increase it by 3,000, that would be sufficient to try to spread it out. So that's why I'm going for that increase.
you had put that in a capital plan that was projected over several years that you'd be looking for
Yeah.
that each year, yeah.
Yeah.
Something-
Inspection fees, level funded. The hydrant fee, that's level funded.
They aren't going up this year then.
No, I checked with them and the fee is
Okay,
as
we'll
it
take
is.
it.
Yes, that's what I said. Station maintenance, level funded is 19,800.
Yeah,
And there's several categories here that are no longer used. So,
fire ponds though, you still
yeah,
keep those up.
fire ponds, we still do maintain those. So that would be,
You
that's
know,
level funded.
I was thinking about that when I
Mhm.
looked through this. I bet there are a lot of people in town that don't even know we have such a thing.
Yeah.
Where they are, some of them.
Oh, yeah, we have over 20 water sources, but we have, I think it's 12 or 14 fire ponds that we actually have the dry hydrants in, that they can be used year round.
Yeah,
And so this is money to keep them dug out and maintained and whatnot, so.
the access.
And it's
to-
for, for the, for those people that don't know it, it's for the areas outside of the hydrant district, so we have a viable water supply, in those areas. We have some on the mountain, we have some in West Northfield, we have some in the farms, so.
about a
You
half
clean it
a
out,
mile.
when you clean them out, do you see if it work?
Oh, yeah, no, we back flush them.
Okay.
What it is, it's a dry hydrant
Yep,
that
yep,
the
yep.
truck can physically draw the water out of.
Yeah.
So we actually have a local contractor, usually it's Jake Browning. Jake Browning goes around and usually digs them out and whatnot. And then once a year we go around and we back flush them to make sure. The suction tube that goes into the pond has to be down below the frost level so it doesn't freeze, obviously. And it's up off the bottom of the pond, so we do back flush those to make sure that they're clear
Yes,
of
that
any
sediment in
debris
them.
or sediment or leaves or whatever that didn't
Yeah,
get built up.
yeah.
So, but that's what that money is for, is just maintaining the ponds we have.
Yeah, we've got one down our way.
Yeah.
Yeah, down near Lyman Hill Road.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they are a viable source of water.
Yeah.
So basically, my annual budget for this last year was $120,789. I'm looking for $124,790. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm
How's the
looking
new
for.
truck?
The ladder truck
Yep.
is doing very well. Unfortunately, we've used it a few times, but it is actually working exceptionally well. So it was a nice find that we had, obviously, that we were able to get a truck that was that new.
No
And it
capital
came back in
expenses
there.
this year?
I do have one.
Yes.
One in it, but I mentioned to Lois that I didn't have the paperwork to do a capital expense.
Which is?
Which is-
Replacing the power unit
Yeah.
on the Jaws of Life.
We have the Jaws of Life. The unit is a dual pump unit, so you can use multiple tools. It was rebuilt in 2006, and the pumps are now, one has failed, and the other one is just starting to get weak.
So is this
It
the
works.
new one?
This would be just a new power unit. Our rams, our cutters, our spreaders, the actual jaws are the same. They're in excellent condition. We about 4 years ago we bought a higher strength cutter made for the new modern metals, and those are all in excellent shape. Unfortunately,
So
we
this
use
is what?
15,000. It's 15,000 for the new power unit, as well as the system runs a little bit differently. You have to have adapters to put on the existing hoses that you use. It was a 2-hose connection, now it's a single connection. So this is for the adapters, and it's for 2 additional 30-foot lengths of hose. And that's what the 15,000 would cover. So we have a brand new power unit, and we still utilize our devices that we have. That's a capital.
Use them, well, I mean, you need it regardless of whether it's once a year or 50 times a year.
Mhm.
What's the usage been?
We probably use the Jaws primarily in town. We don't go out of town very often now, but primarily in town, probably 8 or 10 times a year.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just to pop a door on a vehicle. It just makes access to the patient that much faster. The last 2 months, we've had 2 head-ons on Route 10 by the Route 10 bridge, and we had to, literally the first one, we had to, not only did we have to roll the dash and the floorboard off the victim, we actually had to cut the roof back and extricate him up where the roof would have been. The last one we just had, again, we had to use the Jaws to pop the door. We had to use the rams and the devices to roll the dash off of her lower legs. But like this last one, but from the time we got on scene to the time she was extricated, it was 9 minutes. I mean, the Jaws make all the difference in the world. So to be without them, it just doesn't make any sense. And these have worked well for us. They don't owe us anything. I mean, we train with them, constantly, so we're using them at that point. We exercise them on our monthly cleanup, where we got to go through all the equipment. It's just the point where the power unit, which was rebuilt, like I said, in 2006, are no longer being supported by the manufacturer. You can't get parts for them anymore, so we couldn't get it rebuilt another time. So it's time to replace it. So that's the article I'm looking for.
The 15,000 covers the power unit, the adapters, and the hoses?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, there shouldn't be any other expenses as far as that's concerned. And it is proprietary to the Hearst tool, unfortunately. So, because every manufacturer uses a little bit different hose configuration and a little bit. So when you've got a Hearst, Jaws of Life, you have to to replace everything. You'd probably be looking at $80,000. Doesn't make any sense when all the tools work fine. You just need the power unit.
Yeah.
So
That sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions on that? Let's go on to something else. Emergency management. I thought we had something on it.
Yeah.
I don't.
There's a question that I got to follow up with Andrea on it.
Yeah.
What we had been doing is I thought excuse me, the emergency management budget was going towards the code red system, the reverse 911.
Yes.
I thought that's what was happening. And then the salaries, which there were 3, that's now down, this year's down to 2, the salaries were coming out of a amount of money that was a VY fund
Yeah.
that we used to get a quarterly fund from, and it was put into the emergency management fund for Vermont Yankee.
And it took care of things.
Well, what it did is it basically covered the salaries.
Yeah.
And the salaries are this year will be we're $33,250. But I don't know what happened to that fund. In 2018, we had $23,476 still left. But I don't know if that got rolled into the free cash. I'm not sure where that went. And I mentioned it to Andrea. And I haven't had a chance to get back with Andrea to do a little bit of research.
Yeah, we're in a position where that will be worked on.
Oh, yeah, okay. I haven't had a chance to get together.
Right.
You know, so.
And how much a year is Skip? You're talking about wages.
$3,250
is the total
That's the total
for the 2.
for the salaries. Yeah, I do have. It is myself. I'm the emergency management director.
Yeah.
My daughter Amanda is basically the administrator. She does a lot of administrative work. And Tom Newton, who was the emergency management director,
Yes.
I took it back over from him. As basically he's retired from the fire department. He wants to step back, and he was getting a much smaller stipend. And at this point, I do have one other gentleman that might be interested in working, for the times when I might not be around, or I'm away on vacation, or my daughter and I are away. It just would give a little bit of continuity to it. But he hasn't made a commitment to it yet. So at this point, it would just be the $3,250 salary. And we attend quarterly meetings for MEMA down in Agawam, and there's a substantial amount of paperwork that has to continually be done with MEMA to stay up on funding, and we do the EMPG grant through MEMA. So there's quite a bit of ongoing stuff that we take care of, and that salary covers that workload.
How does Northfield's salary for those positions compare to other towns? It seems kind of low in Northfield.
I honestly don't know. I have not done a comparison. Obviously, we're not in it to make money, but on the other side of the coin, I don't know. I know the fire chief's salary is substantially low compared to what other communities are. But I've never done a comparison on emergency management. I'll be honest with you. So,
Andrea, so that balance you said over 23,000 in 2018.
yeah.
You're, Andrea, looking into what happened to it. That would be.
We're working on closing out 19, so that's the period of time in which we would be figuring out whether that is part of that still and what they're.
That's the VY money, and okay. So in other words, for us, we need to know whether that money, when you find out whether it's available.
Right.
If it's not, we need to come up with that money.
Right, we need to put
Yes.
line
For
item.
the year.
That'd be a line item for salaries. Yeah.
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 Okay.
So that's kind of where we're at with it.
Sure.
I'm hoping it's just there, but if it's not, I mean,
Right, and I filled out, did you have the sheet for EMD? Did I give you the sheet?
You still got one?
The sheet of paper, the budget? You have it, right?
For what?
With the emergency management director?
No, I don't have it. I thought I had it, but is that the emergency
Yeah, I think I
management?
sent it out.
Okay, correct.
And it has, is that the one?
Yes, he has.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think I sent it out. The only note I think I had on there is that we had been notified of an increase in code red, so I kind of bumped that one up.
Okay. What was it?
$150.
Okay. All right.
So
Okay,
it was $36.50, and I'm sorry, it was $35.
3,500. Yeah. No,
$36.50.
3650. Okay.
Just
All
for
right.
that
Yeah.
piece. That's the
Oh,
only
that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, and that's
That
it
code
on
red
your,
does work very well.
on your capital this time.
Pardon?
For the the capital is just the jaws of life.
Just the jaws of life for the fire
Yeah.
department.
All right, any questions, any further? Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thanks for coming in.
Almost painless.
huh? Oh, it's all, I always enjoyed it. I always enjoy it, not a problem. Have a good evening.
Okay.
Be right back. I can let her know.
Yeah, it's the cost of the defense, right?
I'm sorry?
March, civil defense. I got it. Okay. I think the continuation is in order on the prior one.
Yeah, I couldn't understand I couldn't make the numbers work on his sheet at all.
I couldn't either. The addition was wrong. Usually I check the addition. That was wrong on the prior, not this one, but the prior one. And, okay. It'll be the third one that night, so we'll have a little more time to go over it. Okay, the next on the agenda is the minutes.
They look fine to me.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Second?
Motion made and seconded to accept the minutes as presented. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Sue Kuzinski abstained. I abstained, I wasn't here
One
last week.
abstention, okay? Okay, we'll need Andrea for some of this. Consideration of articles for town meeting. Last night, the select board set some dates, and I talked to Sandra today to confirm them. The warrant is open now, the annual town meeting warrant, and it will close on March 5th. And then I've set a date, reserve this room for the 10th, because hopefully we'll be through the budgets. We still have a couple of others that one of them particularly I want to talk to, and so then that meeting on the 10th will be to go over articles, and you want to come up here, we can talk about where we stand on getting some figures. I don't know whether you want to say anything about that or not.
I will update the budget that I gave you. I know I gave you a whole budget, so now that we've been through some of the departments, I'll probably update that and give you all the pages again. I will work with Bob on getting together what we need to do for it's hard. It's hard to know what's going to happen. Everybody's kind of guessing. So we're going to do our best guess.
This is, there are new complications this year because of that and not knowing the figures.
Right, and nobody knows based on this new contract and the change in fees and all the recycling. There really is, and whether or not this will be settled with the drivers. It's a real almost shot in the dark in some respects, but I think we can go. We've got some numbers provided to us by the district for previous years, and the amounts that we were tonnage that we were recycling, so we can try to make our best guess based on Now, we wouldn't do it based on the $90 a ton because there's an offset every month, but that can fluctuate too. So we're gonna have to take an average of that, subtract it out, and then try to make some kind of estimate on what that increase would be. As for the truck rates, I think you may just have to go without knowing that number and have to make an adjustment later, because it doesn't make sense to appropriate a whole bunch of money, and they haven't even told us what that money is. We don't know what that increase would entail, whereas the recycling rates, we have a better sense. We've gotten some figures about our past years, what the rates might, so we can make a sort of educated guess on that. As for the trucking, we don't even have numbers. So anything we did would just be totally fabricated. So I think we should probably just go with what we know on that, and then if it has to be adjusted, it has to be adjusted. And then run some scenarios with Bob on what it means to increase the revenue. What does it mean if you go up with the sticker? What does it mean if you go up with the bags? There's different logic between the sticker and the bags. Everybody pays for a sticker, regardless of how much you throw away. Every household pays. Bags are per amount of trash you generate. So there's two logics to raising those rates. They hit people differently. So
There is quite a lot of discussion online about that, and somebody came up with the idea of, well, if you didn't have the Northfield trash bags, you'd be cutting back on the amount of plastic. So one person has set up a meeting within the next week or two.
I'm not sure what they would put them in. Most people just buy their own trash
You
bags.
have to put them in plastic.
Yeah, you would put it in a different
There's no
type of plastic bag
decrease
as far as doing that. It's just as far as doing
Some people liked bags because when you buy the bag, that's the total cost. And that cost is not reflective, obviously, of what it costs us to buy that bag. What you're paying for is a very small piece of the cost of that bag, and the rest of it is revenue towards the transfer station. So if you were to say, okay, now we just sell you a sticker, now you have to go buy your bag, and we're not lowering the price. Now you're actually just adding the price of the bag onto the sticker. So some people didn't like that idea. They're like, wait a minute, I just paid you $2, I want a bag for it, versus $2 and now I gotta go buy my bag. So
They want to put sticker on their own bag somehow.
Yeah,
but
the
some
other
people
problem with
liked that option.
But the other problem with that is if you allow people to put stickers on the bag, that means that the attendant who's there is gonna have to clearly monitor, and the attendants are running all over the place. How are they gonna monitor?
Yes.
It's easy to monitor when you have a color-coded bag, but if you do, if somebody says, oh, I have a sticker on my bag, what's the person gonna do? Dig out through them to find out, to confirm? It just makes the job for the
Stickers-
transfer station person more
Stickers
difficult.
can be difficult. People say they
Yeah.
don't stick, they fall
Yeah.
off, they blew off, and then you get into what size bags. So then you get into
Yes.
restricting the bag by the sticker, and then people buy a slightly larger bag than somebody else who buys the town bag. There's problems with every method, and
Keep
what you
it
have
simple.
what you have to do is determine, what
They've
you're
set
willing to
up,
do.
one person, I don't know, has set up a meeting at the library meeting room within the next 2 weeks. And Bob has come on there and said he'll be at the meeting, so
Right.
whatever.
It's educational for me. Who sets the fees for the bags and the dumps of the transfer stations?
Board
Well,
of
I don't know
Health.
historically who has set yours,
Board of Health. Yeah.
but I would
Oh,
assume it's the
again,
Board of
this is
Health.
education for me. I didn't know if it was the select board that did that
No.
or the Board of Health.
Board of Health.
Okay, again, that's an education issue.
So I think once I talk with Bob about what the true costs would be, we can then look at, we can get from Dan the number of stickers sold. So it's pretty obvious for us to know what we made last year in stickers. I mean, that's an easy
Well, they ask me
competition.
every year anyway. So
Right.
they have
So we know
knowledge.
that number. The question on bags, I'm not so sure. We might have to try and figure that out. I'm not sure if they keep that in a separate account. Sometimes they just have the transfer station revenue, and I'm not sure we could parse that out. We could look at the last time they ordered them and how long that's been, and try to get some sense of how many the town goes through. But that's going to be a lot harder number to come up with, because I'm not sure year to year, because you can carry an order over for years. We can determine that, and every deposit for the transfer station is not just bags. There's other fees for other kinds of things.
Well, yeah, you get bags, you have the vouchers because somebody's getting into the television or something
Right.
like that. So that's
Propane tank, all sorts
that's
of
different
things.
stuff.
Yeah,
But
that's
those
a
go
completely
into the
different
general
revenue.
Those go into, well, all that goes into the general.
Yeah.
Right, so it'd be hard to just take
Yeah.
out transfer station revenue and call it all bags, because it isn't. But I think they should look at the whole piece. Are we, the idea of getting rid of other things, take trash out of it for a minute, should be that the town is getting the money to cover the disposal of that item, whether it be I don't know exactly what they take, all the items they take up there. But we should review every one of those fees and make sure that it's just covering the cost of disposal as well. So that's something that we can do as well and say, what's our list of fees? How does it compare? And I'm sure we can find out from the Solid Waste Management District how much we're actually paying to dispose of those things. And then we'll know whether at least we should adjust those if they're not covering the cost. So you're not losing money on that end. So that's another piece. Doesn't increase revenue, but at least it's cost.
As far as our planning ahead here and getting through budgets and so forth, I don't know how much you want to say about when we'll have some figures.
I know, it's very, trust me, let's put it this way, I'm sleeping at night now, but
Okay.
I'm still biting my nails about timing. So everyone knows the timing, everyone's under the gun. I'm hopeful that in the next couple weeks you're going to have the fiscal year. They're putting the budget in for 20. They're fixing all the account numbers, getting them all switched over. All the warrants were back entered to July 1st. So when we go and type in an account number, we're now going to be able to see this fiscal year from July 1 and the actual expenditures. They were all put in again. It was all cleaned up. The new chart of accounts is going in, and now we have to deal with the departments. Oh, this number needs to change, or like Skip said, can I combine these two? We have to straighten that out. So once that piece happens, which I'm hoping will be this month, you'll be able to see this year. However, last year is under construction. We have our former town accountant picking up from where she left off and closing it out. Deb is closing
Temporary.
out. She's just coming in to close out last year.
Yeah.
So then once she's able to do that, she can then have the carryover balances that will go forward for things like revolving funds and trust funds, and that will be able to be back-fed in. That is reliant on we got to get our balance sheet created so that we can have free cash. We can have some sense of knowing there's going to be some money in free cash. There always is. We're not going to, but I think you can move forward with the budget. We know what 2.5% is. We can know what our new growth is going to be. So we can do those revenue pieces, and we can plug in a number for free cash. We can be very conservative. And I still think you can be working on the budget and how to finance things until we get that number actually certified. And then other things that you might do with it, whether you put it in stabilization or how much you put into OPEB, those could be decided at that time, once you have the final number.
Right.
So we're working towards getting you those pieces that we can do. Now that I have most of this budget, I can enter it into the budget spreadsheet. I will get the new growth numbers. Because usually the assessors like to give you those numbers because they've seen what's going on. And then obviously the 2.5 computation, that's not too difficult to do. And I can come up with what we think, what we're pretty comfortable that our best guess on the levy limit would be. And you'll know, you have plenty of room under your levy anyway, but you want to know what's the effect on the tax rate is going to be once you start, drafting a budget.
Certainly appreciate Debbie coming back to help out.
Yes,
I know she's retired.
We
still works in Irving.
We offer her constantly. Would you like something? Can we get you some coffee? We're very nice to her. She's really doing us a favor. She doesn't have any reason to do this other than she's really helping us out. So we do appreciate it.
She started yesterday, I believe.
And we were in some straits because the software that she used
is gone.
Well, we don't use it anymore, so we don't have staff that works with it. So you would have had to train somebody to learn how to use that software
For a short period of time,
to just close out the 1 year. And that would have been an exorbitantly difficult task. So we're very appreciative of the fact because she's coming in with that knowledge. But she's got work to do. She's working very hard on it, and she's been in the last couple of days, and she'll be back.
It was the auditor that made the contact.
Our auditor, we owe our auditor a lot. He did us a favor. He really did, in reaching out to her and really saying, you can do this. I think, because if we'd had to bring in an audit firm, and we did reach out to 2 audit firms to see how much this would cost, it would have been about 3 times
Yeah.
the costs that we're
Yeah.
we're looking at doing this with Deb. Because an auditor's firm is gonna charge you quite a bit in terms of a person and the overhead to have that person, to have those people come in. And then they're not gonna be nearly as familiar where Deb is in picking up. So she's gonna be able to have a lot better sense. They would have had a lot more time just getting up to speed than she's gonna have.
The town is going to be paying her directly.
Yes, we are going to be paying her out of the accountant line item, which means probably by the end of the year, I'm going to be coming to you to put additional funds in there. But right now, we can use that line item, it has money in it, but we will have to put money in that because we are paying her as a contractor, so to speak,
Yes. Sure.
to come in and do it. But it'll be the best money we spent in terms of straightening things
Oh,
out.
yes.
And I'm very pleased with the staff we have now, and I think moving forward, we're gonna be very happy with the setup we have in the accountant's office with our accountant and our financial assistant. They're doing yeoman's work. They're teaching themselves the software. Their training is until this week, and yet they've been able to teach themselves all sorts of things about changing the accounts, entering the new budget, entering the old warrants, just because they're very good.
Okay,
So.
I'm glad it's working out that way.
So I think we'll be in good shape. It's just gonna be another hairy few weeks till we get.
So we'll be getting together the potential articles. You will be getting them together. We have 2 or 3. We always
I'm
have.
working on it.
Good, okay. We
I've got it,
always
I'm
have
already drafting the warrant, but I am listing all the articles, so they will come to you. I mean, I'm just listing them as people request them. It's up to you to decide what you do with them at that point. I'm just creating the sheet for every article so that, you know.
Okay,
You will have that available to look at. Most everything should be in now, so I'm just moving it around now and trying to get it, including the unpaid bills from last year that we have.
okay.
So we will not be having a special town meeting.
No.
We think
Even
we can roll
before
that in.
It's gonna be part of the annual town meeting.
I think that's the way the moderator will want to handle it. It's his call.
But if there's no free cash that you can spend right away.
Oh, no, we have to have pre-cash certified by town meeting. There's no doubt
Right,
that
okay.
there's no doubt that that'll be done by May. I mean, unless something very strange happens, we're not. No, because those would have to be, I mean, there's things you couldn't do without it. And you'd have to put off,
You couldn't have a special.
We could, well, no. You couldn't
You'd have trouble
special,
with
you couldn't
annual.
have any town meeting. You have to have the.
We'd have
Yeah,
to close
close
down June 30th.
well, I mean,
Wow.
I've seen people put town meeting off a month and do
Yeah.
it in June. But
Yeah.
that's not our goal here. Our goal is to be well ahead of that.
We had one
Remember
June 29.
Yeah.
It happens. People put
Oh,
them
yeah.
off when you're waiting for things to be settled. My hope is that we will not be in that position. But it's looking like we will not be in that position. But I have started to put together the articles with all the requests, and then I'll be able to give you that plus, each article as it.
The question will come
So I'll
with
do
the
it
select
on the
board
article form like this, so you see it the way
Okay.
you expect to see it.
as to whether the select board sometimes wants to know whether we're going to recommend or not, because they may decide not to put something on if we're not recommending it.
Right.
It's their call, however, but that sometimes happens. So we want the contingency article still. I know it's kind of moot at this point, but
It's number
that's
7.
the one immediately preceding the omnibus.
That's number 7 right now.
Okay, whatever the numbers are.
Right, based on the waive the reading of the article, accept the town reports, apply and accept for state and federal grants, so the first 3.
Okay.
And then I have some prior year bills for the town, prior year bills for the sewer. Then there's a reserve fund article, which would be to replenish your reserve fund. If you remember, you
Yes, we need to,
put that money back in because you
If we're
may
gonna
have things
use it
at the
bef-
end of the year.
yes, okay.
And then it goes into the 2.5 contingency as Article 7. Omnibus is Article 8, and then I launch into all the requests
Okay.
you've had.
And
Well,
we
EMS
want,
sewer.
at the end, we want to, usually it's the finance committee that recommends stabilization money.
Right.
And then it will be, how about OPEB?
Article 31.
You've got it in there.
Well, I have them all as placeholders, what you decide to do with
Yes,
them.
yeah.
So the ones that seem to be annual, I've already placeholder.
Now, haven't we put money in it 2 years now?
Yes, 130 something the first year and 100,000.
Okay. I
And we
thought
got a
at
new
some
report
point
this
we
year.
were just gonna build it into the omnibus.
Well, isn't it kind of built in by the assessment from the Franklin County Retirement?
That doesn't automatically go into your trust fund, no.
I know it doesn't, but it pays the post-employment commitments right now.
No, no. Right now you have an appropriation for your retirement. You're not at a point where your trust fund is funded well enough to spin off cash towards that benefit yet
Right, but the appropriation, there is an appropriation in the omnibus.
for your retirement.
Yes.
But that's just a straight
That's,
retirement
Current.
appropriation. Doesn't
Yeah.
have anything to do with your open trust fund yet.
Yeah, right. What is our burden based on the latest?
I sent you out a while ago the report. I'd have to look back now and see what they would call
last
fully
year's like
funded.
$800,000 or something like that.
7 and change is fully funded.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
I think
Wow.
we should be putting something in. So you've got an article, you've got.
I've got an
placeholder.
article, and
Okay.
when you start to put together the budget numbers, you can decide what goes in them. I just put them in
Okay.
as placeholders at this
All
time.
right.
And all the requests that I've received from the departments are also here. I have the fire department is in here, the power unit and miscellaneous equipment. The business park, the
Last
various
night, the
requests.
select board appointed 2 more people, so I think that makes 3 on this 350th anniversary
I think there's actually
celebration.
4.
Is it 4
I
now?
think there's 4 now. There were 2 before, at least 2.
Okay. I think they need to be told that they should ask for a budget.
So there's a possibility there. I'll make a note so we can talk to them.
Sure. They volunteer for this committee, but I think I don't know what the needs are, but I just think it'd be good to say to them that there's a possibility to ask for some sort of a budget. I don't envision anything like the tercentenary was in '73, but and they don't either, I don't think. But anyway, okay.
So I have collected everybody's. I do have in the audit, the 3rd year audit one is the other one we talked about. You're doing 3 in a row, so that's
Yeah.
plus some other ones that are potential articles for some various other things from the treasurer as a Landerful article. I've also got a placeholder on the local option taxes. I don't know if you know that I brought that to the selectmen's attention yesterday at their meeting for discussion purposes only.
Yes, and I
To see
noticed that one couple came in
Right.
to speak on it.
Right, and that yesterday all I was trying to do was to see if the board was interested in pursuing any of them, because I didn't want to invite in businesses and, if it was a moot point. So, so they seem interested in that, so I'm probably gonna set up a meeting, a select board meeting. I'm not sure which yet, because I think Tracy's gonna be out for one in March, so we're trying to figure out a date.
Yeah.
And then invite in some of the local business leaders to talk about that. There's 3 different local option taxes, but I think it's something that
There's
they should
meals and the
visit.
and
There's food and beverage, there's a marijuana excise tax, and there's a short-term rental.
and that's the Airbnbs.
That would be
really
any
created it.
short-term rental,
Yeah,
in
they
theory.
created that, and so it was our local B&B, the Stoyers, that were in about it with.
Right, and that,
Some
and
concern.
then, he said he wasn't completely against it. So, but and they could go up to 6%. I think everyone agrees 6% would be way too high. But I did give
I
them a
noticed you
sheet with
said
all
that-
the local communities that have passed it.
It doesn't have to be all or nothing, it can be partial. In other words, when you talk about 6, it didn't have to go
No.
up.
No, they could. I think the only town that had passed the new one was at 3%. So you can take a percentage. And the only reason I wanted to bring it to their attention is because there is the potential for, well, if that campground gets built, for example,
Yeah,
all of that rental would be subject to that. And the historic committee was asked to sign a letter of support for the renovation of the 2 buildings down along the river here, the older buildings that are owned by the Moody Center or the college, I can't remember which, to turn those into,
I think the Moody Center.
I think the Moody Center owns both of those historic buildings down by the river, to turn both of those into bed and breakfasts. Again, It's a significant amount of potential tax revenue for the community, at
So
some percentage.
this versus the people that are thinking about the reputation Northfield has as being anti-business. So there are different sides to this, to think.
Right, I mean, and I'm not sure that doing this is anti-business. I think most places you go have, even if you stay in a hotel, you're paying a local. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not meant to be, it's not meant to hurt the business. It's meant for people coming through town who are utilizing services in your town there's no other way
You
to
make
have
them-
them participate in your
yeah.
budget. So, but it's all open for discussion. That's what I wanted them to.
So you brought the issue of short-term rentals, you said the meals tax.
Meals and beverage and the marijuana.
Marijuana,
So
okay.
there are three separate things. They all have to go to town meeting, even if you decide you want
Yeah.
to do them. They all go to town meeting vote, and they're all open for debate. I just wanted them to be aware that they're out there,
Sure.
and that a lot of communities are making themselves available of them.
I think it was good because anybody watching last night's meeting has an idea of something that gives them something to be thinking about.
Right, and that's what I wanted the board to do, just to be aware that those potentials are out there, and you can do 1, 2, 3, none. I mean, they're all just whatever
Okay.
they decide to do. Whatever you decide to do as a town, because actually they'd have to go to town meeting ultimately.
As far as any new information regarding Pioneer, it changes. It's a moving target as far as I'm concerned.
I did get new numbers again today, slightly
Yes.
different, but I don't know what that does to the
Well,
assessment.
last week they had the public hearing, and then they had a special school committee meeting on Thursday night. The regular school committee meeting will be this week, Thursday night. They came up with a budget last week that was voted, this question that I asked about counselor versus the other position, the administration had taken that position out. What do we call it? Advisory?
The adjustment.
Adjustment council, thank you.
License clinical.
And I thought he gave us good information about it here, Richard Martin did, because he's been one, evidently. And so anyway, there were enough parents and others, some teachers, I guess, objected to it, so they put that back into the budget now. So it's going to take another vote on the budget. But now that's pushing the assessments up. So there's an increase in the one we saw previously. I won't even think about what number it was. But anyway, the one that was previous.
The 4615635, the 4,615,000. That's the last one I had.
Okay.
But I don't know what's changed since.
Well, the material came out today, or ready for Thursday night's meeting, and said it was partial and some more would come, and I didn't look to see if it came or not. So, I don't know. And then that brings us to the four-town meeting, and last week I asked you if you'd be willing to consider a change in date, and Jane checked with the senior center over there as to availability, and we are changing the date to March 23rd. And I think if anybody has any agenda topics, let me know. I'll be sending out to the other towns for agenda topics. In my mind, the big agenda item will be the Pioneer budget.
Yep.
So that's, what time that's a select board meeting
7
right
o'clock
here,
is
so.
You do the select board meeting? Okay.
It would,
7
in
o'clock.
theory, it would be, yes, the second and
Yeah.
if I go every other for select board, but so was the 9th. They were both actually, they both actually hit select board meeting nights for the.
Yeah, one time they met and then came over to the meeting.
Right, they had a quick meeting, which we can attempt to do as
Okay.
well.
So the 23rd at the Bernardston Senior Center at 7 o'clock. And by then we may have some final figures on the budget, I guess.
But that on their calendar.
Okay, I guess we're down to, there was nothing in the way of mail here.
Well, this actually came to me, and I'm sure you got a copy of it too. This had to do with the meeting they had the other night, and this is one of the.
Came from me.
Yeah.
I mean, I sent
You got
it
one?
to everybody.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
You get it?
No.
Okay, well, you can hand it down.
Oh,
This was a member of the town, and read it when you have a chance as far as doing that. It had to do with that position that was reinstated, so.
this was about getting rid of the adjustment council.
Yeah, they can just read it, I guess.
And it convinced the school committee to change and reverse their vote on it. Very good, well written.
She did a great job.
That is,
Yeah,
Devotee said it.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's excellent.
I had a long discussion with her last week about this whole thing as far as. Take it away.
yeah, thanks.
So, basically it's a mute issue a little bit because they were able to get the counselor back, which is, in my estimation, this day and age is a great thing, so.
It's great as a citizen and a parent that she did such an effort and communicated so well that through her efforts that she was able to change the school committee's mind. It tells you,
Well, she also works in this position in Greenfield.
Yes.
yeah,
So she understands what's going on.
yeah.
Yeah,
But again,
thank you.
effort of a citizen. It should
And
be
it was
commended.
very well
Did you see
explained
it?
tonight, too.
Uh-huh.
I have an extra one. Very well explained tonight from the textbook as far as why you actually need something like that, and that's excellent.
I thought he
You did a super
did a
job.
good job. Okay,
Just wanted to give you one quick announcement. The select board voted to close the warrant March 5th. They decided to extend it a week.
yeah,
So for anybody who's looking to enter an article from the public, March 5th,
March 5th.
which gives us then approximately 2 months to go through. And
and it will be posted on April
April 1,
16th.
16?
well, that's the last day. We're
At
talking
least by the 16th.
at least by the 16th. If it fell to their regular select board meeting night, it would be the 6th, or they could have another meeting and post it later,
Okay.
depending on how ready we are.
They'll be
Sign it.
signing it and could,
Right.
yeah.
So that means that if we have it March 5th, that gives us 4 weeks to get everything prepared and ready to be signed, because then it has to go out to be printed.
Anybody have any questions on the timing sequence and everything?
No.
Okay. I don't think there've been any meetings. Tony was gonna have one, wasn't he, last week, but that's, and yours, you reported on.
I've had no meetings since you reported last week. Yeah.
Very good write-up in the paper about the business park.
Somebody knows somebody.
Yeah.
It was a very good one.
Yeah.
Yes, excellent. And I don't have anything else. Do you, Andrea, have other things you want to talk about?
No, I just wanted to let you know that I am working on this material, and at some point I'm gonna bring you just a whole packet, basically with all of it, so you can start to review it.
Yeah,
I was just
good.
trying to put it all together, with all the supporting material. I like to have it all separate from the budget, so I can go by.
You know, we talk about, that next meeting that we'd have. I don't know if we can pull it all together at that time. We might have to meet twice that week or
Mhm.
something to keep this flowing along.
I think
I mean, it's not,
at
this
this
is
point-
common that
Yeah,
we would be
I mean, take some.
Right.
I think at this point, I'm waiting to see, obviously I won't know till the 5th what this looks like, because somebody could submit an article.
Yeah,
But in terms of most of the financial articles, I should have everything. And not all of these are financial articles, but I did placeholders for community preservation, and it was, the typical, the normal articles that you see. And then there's gonna be a solar pilot article, so some of them don't have financial ramifications, but I wanted to
yeah.
collect everything up so we can get a sense of what the whole
Sure.
warrant's gonna
So
look like.
we're meeting the 10th?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So I will have some
We're gonna
sense of
have
that
the
too.
non-partisan caucus, but we'll move it to the 17th.
Oh, okay. Caucus is on the March 17th.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to move it.
You'll have to wear green.
Oh.
When is the caucus?
Well, I'm gonna, because we're meeting the 10th, I'll make it the 17th. So I have to check, see how many days that is. All right? 'Cause I
Yeah.
think they have a certain number of days from the,
Between there and that.
between
So
here
I
and the election. So
Hoping to attend, but I'll be out that week, so.
It just need 25
We're
more
meeting
bodies
the
in the
25th.
room, so
Right.
we use the
Yeah.
business.
Not including relatives.
All right, well, if there's nothing else that anybody has,
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn for the evening.
I second the motion.
motion made and seconded that we adjourn. We are adjourned.